Hi everyone. Thanks for taking a second to watch our second installment of our YouTube videos. Thanks for all the feedback from the first one. And I'd invite you, if you would, to give me just the next 10 minutes or so. I'd like to ask for some prayer. I'd like to kind of update you on a couple things, offer some suggestions. I've got 2 suggestions for how you do local ministry and teaching for you to think about this week. And then I want to conclude with reading to you from Jesus' sermon recorded by Matthew. I want to just read a little bit of that from the Message Bible, and I think it'll be an encouraging deal for you. It was for me this last week. So first, just some updates. Many of you got an email from me, and in that email, it suggested that you buy a gift card and send it to me. I actually think that was a pretty good idea, but that didn't come from me. That's somebody hacked my email, so you can ignore that. We think we've got that corrected with a new password and whatnot. So thanks for your patience on that. Also, we are having a number of folks either move to or feel called to move to Montana and plant a church. There just seems to be a stirring of what God's doing among us for that particular region. So please be praying for that. Missoula, Butte, Livingston, Helena, all those places, it looks quite likely that we will plant a church in the very near future. You may know in Helena, the Kendricks have already moved there and secured a house, and so you can be praying for them. I know they may have been in touch with you about help with fundraising and those kind of things. Please be praying for what God's doing there. Next month, we'll talk about some cool stuff in Boise and Salt Lake City and other places. But I just wanted to highlight what's going on in Montana. Pretty excited about that. Hey, a couple of suggestions. I've had the chance now for, what's it been, 18 months or so, as your district superintendent, to listen and watch many of you teach. Sometimes that's online, sometimes that's on site. But it's been a real privilege. You're doing really, really well. Really pleased with how God's helping you teach in a relevant way, an interesting way, authentic to the Scripture. Thank you for your diligent work on that. Very impressed. One suggestion that I might offer that I think applies to many of us, myself included. And I think in this era of time, when we communicate and when we teach, it's quite crucial that in the first few minutes, say 3 or 4, we tell the listener where it is we're going, what value is to be gained, if you will, by staying with us for the whole 30-minute journey. If they stay with us for the next 30 minutes, some of your cases is like 50 minutes, which we can talk about that another time. But if the listener stays with us for the next 30 minutes, what value is to be gained? Where will be the value of that? I'd like as a listener to know, if I work with you and I stay engaged, what's going to be, is it going to be worth it? Is there a reason for that? If you can tell me that, that really helps. Something I'm working on, something I'm trying to do. So think through that as you prepare teachings over the next couple of weeks. The other thing that I'd like to share with you, suggestion-wise, help-wise, is many of you are doing a phenomenal job of putting together really thoughtful processes around discipleship, around the potential of launching leaders from your congregation. Love that. We've talked a lot, and I'll not stop talking about how important that is. And so you've identified some people. You've put together some curriculum and a process that really is going to engage, so that if God might call them to plant a church, go lead a ministry, you're going to prepare them for that. You're going to set the foundation for that. Great. One thing I would encourage you, though, not to ignore in that journey, and that is what you personally can do to pour into a small group of leaders. I'd really encourage you not to ignore how powerful choosing to engage on at least a monthly basis with 2 or 3 or a dozen or 15 future leaders in God's kingdom. That I think is likely the most powerful thing you can be giving your life to right now. So while you're being very intentional and thoughtful about the process your church has for discipleship and laying the foundation for folks who will go out and plant other churches and ministries, don't forget what you personally can do. I found it to be the most fun, fulfilling part of ministry, and still do. But also, as I now look back over a couple decades, I think it's the most impactful thing I have done, and that is what I've done to pour personally into a small group of launchable leaders. I love to look back and see where they're at these days. So that's just an idea, something to be thinking about as well in terms of your leadership. I want to leave you with this. I want to read to you from Jesus' sermon that Matthew records. Many of you know it really, really well. Kind of launched his ministry. I'm going to read it to you, though, from the Message. I've been meditating on this sermon that Jesus gave, and most of that has been through Eugene Peterson's The Message. And the first little bit of that really grabbed my attention last week, and I've just been thinking a lot about it. It starts, as you know, when Jesus saw his ministry drawing huge crowds, he climbed to a hillside. Those who were apprenticed to him, the committed, climbed with him. Arriving at a quiet place, he sat down and taught his climbing companions. This is what he said. He starts with this. You're blessed when you're at the end of your rope. With less of you, there's more of God and his rule. This week, I'd like you to celebrate if you've determined that you're out of energy, wisdom, ideas, etc. If you've determined that's kind of where you're at today on a Monday, I'd like this week to be a little bit of celebration, because now there's space for God to do something significant. If you'd say, no, I'm not at the end of my rope at all. I've got more wisdom and energy and ideas left and all this stuff. If that's not the case, you might mourn a little bit. There might not be space for God to do something great this week. So think about that. He goes on to say, you're blessed when you feel you've lost what is most dear to you. Only then can you be embraced by the one most dear to you. Some of you are mourning loss. Maybe loss of youth. Maybe a loss of what used to be a natural inner drive to do what you do, to lead ministry. Maybe you're mourning the loss of the dream. You had this dream that you'd be someday recognized as a significant leader or teacher or scholar or whatever, and it now appears that probably won't happen, or whatever it was your dream. And there's a sense that you've lost something really dear. And Jesus says now, and only now, can you be fully embraced by the one most dear to you. And then I'll conclude with this. You're blessed when you're content with just who you are. No more, no less. That's the moment you find yourselves proud owners of everything that can't be bought. Thanks for your time today. Have a great week.